Welcome aboard. It's right. I'm playing hurt, I'm playing tired, and I'm playing not to lose. This could be the worst show ever. The worst ever. That's. I'm starting the show like that. I hurt my thumb earlier today. I did not sleep well. I went out for a walk, and then I said, this isn't going to be enough. So I went off to Walmart. Chris Coleman here, master producer, and I got some, what did I get? One of those pies, Fran's Bakery pies, blackberry. Not bad. Not great, though. I want to say that. And I got a Monster. So that's what I'm operating off of right now. I figure about 5:15, 5:20 crash. Huge. Right through the floor. End of energy.
Second hours.
It's going to be rough. Going to be rough. The Glen Biegel Show here on KOAN and KVNT. It is Fair Game Friday and Free Flower Friday. Hope you join in the conversation here, 569-1080 and 357-5868. Deep questions are on my mind here. I guess Tom Brady is in big, fat trouble. Am I right on that so far?
It appears so.
It appears, yes. Somebody said that he could be suspended for the entire year. I mean, this was the guy who basically, won every game, won the Super Bowl. This guy's a pretty big deal.
Yeah, Super Bowl MVP.
Yeah.
And,
So what they're saying is he cheated. And I need to phone a friend. I've got to get, a 50-50. I got to split the pot. I don't understand what they're talking about. I literally don't. Yes, I watch football. Yes, I've watched dozens of games. Okay, explain to me exactly what he did.
Well, apparently he had some people deflate the balls a little bit for him, is what happened.
So they deflated the balls.
There's a regulation. I believe it's supposed to be between 12 and 14 PSI.
Okay.
And they found some that were as low as 11 and even under that.
11. Okay.
Pounds of pressure.
All right. So this would be equivalent to what? I'm
not really sure. I mean, somewhere in that, I think it's like 238-page report that they have. They actually have like some scientists have figured out the actual, what he would gain out of this or something, which I haven't heard any numbers on that.
Well, this is really, I'm going to get around to that because it's very important. Again, you're listening to the Glen Biegel Show. Chris Coleman, he's a master producer. He is the closest thing to a football aficionado as I could come up with on short notice, and I appreciate
I'm just a fan.
You being in here.
Not an expert.
I've got to understand this. The first thing I've been trying to work out is what is deflating a football like? It's like having tires that are larger on your car that you're racing in a race. It's like, what is it like?
I'm not really sure.
What is like snagging a fish in a river and keeping it instead of throwing it back?
Why?
That's an interesting analogy.
Because it's cheating.
No, you have to establish. You can't. That's a circular argument. You have to give me default.
Analogy.
It's cheating. You can't say it's cheating because it's cheating. That's a circular argument. First, you say it's cheating because it's like this other case, which we all identify as cheating. What I'm saying is I don't identify having a deflated football as cheating. It's against the rules. Yeah, I don't understand the rule.
I see. Yeah.
So I want an equivalent in sports racing, in car racing, in running. I'm just looking for an example. I don't understand it.
Maybe loading up the ball in baseball. Having a little bit.
A bat,
like a spitball or something.
Well, they do spit on the ball though.
Helps you get a little more drop on your curve.
They can do spitballs. All that stuff is probably legal, but maybe it's like a loaded bat. So you're thinking it's like a loaded bat.
Some equivalent to that, I would think.
Wow.
Maybe not as much as a loaded bat.
Now, see, that's my question is a loaded bat is obviously cheating.
Yeah.
There's no question about it. I still don't understand how it's the same. So I don't have an equivalent. This is what I'm thinking that it's equivalent to, where somebody says, I want cleats on my shoes when I play soccer. And the refs say, well, we don't allow cleats on. You're just going to have to run, and if the field's wet, you're going to fall down. That's the rule. That, to me, that's the equivalent thing here. Or Like the swimsuits that they use. You know, the swimsuits, some of them, they started with just regular
now
little
they have
Speedos.
like a whole
now they got the
superhero
whole body,
outfit kind of thing. Yeah.
That to me is something similar to this. They didn't say, well, you can't wear a longer suit because that's cheating. They say, well, excuse me, but I swim faster in a longer suit. Have I missed something? I'd like to swim faster. Do you want me to swim faster, Mr. Referee? It's still me. I'm still in the stinking suit. This is what I'm thinking it is. I'm thinking that these referees have made rules which don't make any sense.
Yeah, I would
you're
say
right.
So.
You may be on my side.
I would say even the things that you're suggesting is even give you a more competitive edge than actually deflating the football.
I totally agree. So. Okay, here's my deep, dark question. And in 569-1080, if you have an answer to this, you can go out to my Facebook page. You can answer it there. Is playing with balls at 11 PSI, which is what Tom Brady did, if it gives you an advantage, okay, let's just stipulate for the record that he likes playing with balls at 11 PSI. He believes that it gives him an advantage. If you're a fan, why don't you want your quarterback to play with a ball that he wants to play with?
Right. Actually, a few years ago, and Tom Brady was one of the guys that they made the rules where the quarterback can work with the football before the game, to like, rub it down.
To let the air out of it.
So, I mean, apparently the officials kind of measure stuff.
Okay, Chris, this is what I'm thinking
time.
Is going on here. He didn't deflate the ball so that they were like, spongy or something. They just fit his hand a little bit better. He likes the feel of them a little bit better. It didn't change significantly the game whatsoever. Exactly. Give him a better grip. He wants to play with those balls. He gets more points by playing with balls that he wants to play with.
Yeah.
I don't really understand. Is this game for the refs or is it for the fans?
That's for the fans.
It's for the fans. These refs are dead wrong. This should not be a rule. I don't get it. Chris, I don't get it.
I don't get it either.
All right. Well, that's where we start today. You're listening to the Glen Biegel Show here on KOAN and KVNT 569-1080. We're going to be talking with Senator John Coghill here in just a minute. Thanks for coming in, Chris. I appreciate that. Bonnie's on the other side of the glass. Stay tuned. Playing hurt, playing tired, playing not to lose. That is the perfect recipe for disaster, which may be what happens today. You're listening to the Glen Biegel Show, KOAN and KVNT, the hour sponsor for this hour of the program, A&A The Shop. If you've got a Subaru, I got just the place to take it. Alaska's premier independent Subaru service center, ASC certified technicians, the best warranty in the business, 36-month, 36,000-mile warranty on all parts and labor. Oh, yeah, that is fantastic. One of the reasons why they are best shop in Anchorage 6 out of the last 12 years. 562-3919, that gets you to their location, corner of Tudor and Old Seward, and out on Ashley Park Lane, 696-2096, aAtheshop.com. The hour sponsor, A&A The Shop. For the program, let me go to Senator John Coghill. Senator Coghill, I noticed yesterday, and I was talking with Representative Johnson, that the newspaper here in Anchorage is not very complimentary about you guys. Said you guys were fleeing Juneau and that you had a vacation-like recess. Does this seem like vacation, and are you fleeing anything?
It is not a vacation. We're not fleeing. As a matter of fact, that very same paper is the one that will want to have the only message in town that people in Alaska hear. Part of the reason we had to go was so that we could get on talk shows and talk to other people and give them a different perspective than what the ADN gives. Quite frankly, they have a bent, and it just doesn't happen to be with the majority of the Republicans in Juneau.
Well, it's enormously important that you guys run into your constituents and not the ones that are paid to go down to Juneau in order to ask for more money, but average people who are going to be hit with an income tax or a statewide sales tax.
In fact, they're even talking about it now, Glenn, that we've got to pay for education by going around and taking money from people to put it in there. But the first thing is we got to say, where do we squeeze ourselves way before we start asking other people to chip in?
Yeah, it was $100 a person head tax, right, in the state of Alaska, something like that.
Years ago, it started off as $10. The first paycheck of a year was $10, and then I think it went up to $100 later on. And, you know, I don't know that anybody would fault that. It just wouldn't fault that. But if you looked at what that value was to today's education budget, you wouldn't even it wouldn't be a bump in the road.
Yeah, it's not a drop in the bucket, and that's one of the difficulties we have. Senator John Coghill on the Glen Biegel Show, who's got $3 billion to make up all this state subsidy for people who are not working.
I think you've probably had it said on your radio show many times, but the reality is the oil price that we depended upon is now delivering half of the income that we've been used to, and our spending rate is so high that we'll burn through our savings account in about 2.5 years. So you have to seriously get after saying we can't give people raises, we can't engage more spending, we have to start trimming back. So the government services that are the two biggest issues in Alaska, education, health and social services. So education at this year, we asked them not to take a 4% raise, basically. Some people will call it a 4% cut because we promised that we would raise.
That's what the newspaper called it, and I called them on it on my Facebook page.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah,
because what we're saying is we can't afford to give you the raise we said we'd give you, so it's called a cut. I grant you that. Yeah, I mean, just
no, for normal people, Senator Coghill, it's not called a cut. It's called we are trying to get the budget to right size. We can't afford to give you more money like we thought we could last year. The prices don't support that. So you guys are going to have to learn to live with less, or you're going to have to learn to live with the same amount, which is basically what it was.
And if you add what we put into agency issues like the Department of Education and some of the boarding schools and things like that, the $30 million that the governor cut, plus what we said we can't give you the raise in the base student allocation, you could make the case that it's a 7% change from what they expected. And so, I got to tell you, a 4% cut in the base student allocation, a cut to the raise should be something they can do, especially since the student population has been going down. I understand the costs are going up, but the student population count has been going down all over Alaska, except for Mat-Su.
Well, this is one of the huge difficulties is they keep talking about a $30 million cut and a shortfall and so on and so forth. But what they don't mention is that they have increased their costs 5, 6, 7% every single year through raises and new benefit packages and all kinds of things. And that's being called, oh, well, that's the actual budget rather than the newly increased budget. And then you're getting blamed for anything that doesn't come in to match that.
You know, the other thing that hardly ever gets mentioned, Glenn, is the fact that we are on the hook for their retirement. And last year, we took their retirement from behind the curve to at least marketable. And so we took the TERS, unfunded liability, and ramped it up so it was whole. That's education spending too. That was $2 billion last year.
Mm-hmm. No, and I think everybody agrees that was a good idea. As it turns out, it hopefully will drive people to more fiscal sanity in the legislature and in the governor's office. We've got a lot to talk about. Senator John Coghill is on the phone with me. I had an idea. You know the base closure commission that happened a while ago at the federal level?
Yes.
I'm suggesting that somehow, maybe you guys elect the person or whatever it is, but that a sustainable budget czar be appointed. If it's the legislature, you guys appropriate the money, so you guys could do it at the front end. But to go in and decide these are the services that we are going to continue to fund, but they'll have to get more efficient. These are the services that we won't fund, so they're gone. We're going to undo the increases of the last 5 or 6 years, get us to a sustainable budget. Here it is. And like the Base Closure Commission, that was kind of a non-political thing. You know, the Base Closure Commission was a non-political, nonpartisan group of people.
The commission itself was, but I can tell you it was hugely political, and that governors and senators in Congress had a big impact on it.
A lot of lobbying going on.
Yeah, so you'd probably get the same thing in Alaska. I think we just have to have a continued public discussion. And I can tell you the governor in June is going to start the conversation on how much tax do you want to pay. And I can tell you, while he's trying to increase the entitlement rolls and to say, look, you business guys, I'm willing to take it out of your pocket so that we can increase the entitlement rolls, crazy to me. It's absolutely crazy.
Well, I don't think he's going to get away with it if it's presented properly, Senator Coghill.
Well, you know, it is the fact that we're going to run out of money if something doesn't change. I'll grant you that. But this entitlement world that we live in, that's got to change too. And the first thing we do is take our Medicaid, which is the second biggest budget in Alaska. We start ratcheting that down. And you can't
not
do that
increasing
by expanding it. Yeah, you can't do that by expanding it.
Well, here's my question. Here's the hard question for the governor to answer and for a lot of the legislators who are not on your side trying to reduce the budget this year. If the budget cutting this year is this hard and they want to add in $150 million again, what is the chance that we could possibly cut another $500 million or $650 million if they want to add in $150 million back?
Like so many things. Even in your home budget, maybe the first year you have to tighten your belt and you can quit your TV, quit traveling. Then what? If your income still stays down, you got to change your lifestyle. You just have to. And you have to change your income bracket. So natural gas is one way. Looking at our oil industry is another way. Looking to the individuals of Alaska. But you also have to go to them and say, are you willing to pay for this? And I think that conversation really starts telling what do people really want. Now, education is important, but you can do the education system without the cost that we have incurred over the years.
How does that happen, though, without a governor who's willing to help redesign it? Because if people don't know, the governor has access literally to 1,900 appointed positions. Each legislator might have between 2 and 5 people working in their office. They only have access, even the whole caucus only has access to a couple of dozen people. So it's a really unbalanced situation. It's kind of up to the governor to tell you, you know, if you ask him, we want to fund education at this level, tell us how we could do that and how, you know, what your suggestions are for that.
There's no doubt Alaska has
Can you have that conversation with him?
I don't think he's totally tone deaf on that.
Okay.
However, what the people that got him elected, they're going to be the ones that have the first shot at him. and the unions were the ones that first got him there. That's one of the reasons why you're going to see so much pressure on him to say, go ahead and raise the union contracts, the 2% COLA raise, and still lay people off. It's just, it doesn't make good economic sense, but you're going to see that kind of pressure put on him. And he has to be able to figure out how to get through that pressure and really help Alaska. And I'm hoping he does that. I don't think he's totally unapproachable, but he has some big battles he's got to fight. Hopefully we can get there. The legislature still has the power of the purse, Glenn.
Yeah.
And
if you guys say this is all the money we're going to spend, there's nothing under the sun that can allow him to spend more money. Now, you'll be bashed from morning, noon, and night by the Alaska Dispatch News, who's going to print false information like there's a 4% cut in education, one of the things that they printed in their paper yesterday. Yeah,
they filter their message, and they will print those who agree with them. That's true. I've tried to get messages through Dispatch, cannot get even a good hearing sometimes. So, yeah, but the people of Alaska do have ears, and they know the Dispatch has its agenda, and we're not unanimous in Alaska, but there are ways to getting to the people of Alaska, letting them know the state of their state. And I think many of us legislators have taken it very seriously. We know that the spending rate is so high on our savings account that we could not afford to get that money out of Alaska without literally tipping it upside down and shipping everybody out of state.
Well, that's the question. What you've hit on here, Senator John Coghill here on the Glen Biegel Show, what you've hit on is the real question for legislators. Are we going to continue to subsidize people who are in Alaska and not working, who otherwise could work? There are a lot of people who are on the unemployment rolls, who are on the welfare rolls, who could otherwise work, or are we going to keep them and get rid of people who are working because the taxes will go up so dramatically, or will we try and keep job holders and wealth makers?
And I think that's a good question. For example, I always run off the premise: our country was founded on government is limited, people are free. But it's turned upside down right now, where government is absolutely not limited and people absolutely are. We've got to get away from that. And somehow it's demonized to be a for-profit business, and it's okay to be a government business. It's just backwards.
It is. Well, it takes a lot of brainwashing. It takes a lot of convincing. A lot of movies have to convince people of that. Senator John Coghill, I really appreciate it. I hope you can come back again soon.
We'll look forward to it, Glenn. Have a good day.
All right, you too, Senator Coghill. This is the battle of the century. I want people to know that the legislature is in a pitched battle with the Alaska Dispatch News and the Democrats. I don't know where Walker's going to come down, but my guess is he's going to go after our paychecks. And that's what's coming next. 28 minutes after the hour. Happy Friday, everybody. Fair Game Friday, Free Flower Friday. Give us a call. 25 minutes before the hour of the Glen Biegel Show here on KOAN and KVNT. And it is Fair Game Friday. Anything on your mind is fair game. I'll field all questions, or you could just tell me that I'm way off base on my understanding of football, as Dan Fagan did, by the way. He ran me up. You don't understand this game. That is the stupidest thing I have ever heard. How can some commenting on how the PSI of a football be the stupidest thing a person's ever heard? Is that fair? That's not fair. I mean, it may be one of the stupidest things, but it's probably not the stupidest thing you've ever heard. I don't even understand it. I'm trying to figure it out. This was basically the claim. Bonnie's on the other side of the glass, so that's kind of who I'm talking to because you're not calling. 569-1080. So the Patriots beat the Colts by 40 points in Deflategate. That's the game where they decided that these balls were deflated, and they were right. Brady wants, what did he call them? Some sweet pigskin. I don't even know. It kind of got a little creepy, the whole description of these balls. And so is it possible that the balls could account for 40 additional points? And if it is possible, wouldn't the fans want the balls to be deflated every game? Am I wrong here?
You know what happened in that game is at halftime, actually, they found the balls to be underinflated. So for the whole second half, he used regularly inflated legal, and he actually scored more points in the second half.
Well, that just goes to show, I don't know what it goes to show. None of this makes any sense. If a quarterback likes balls to be a little less inflated, why wouldn't you let him play with those? Come on, people. You know, I'm not talking about having it inflated at 2 PSI or something and making it, that's not what I'm talking about. I can't think of an equivalent situation in any other sport. This would be the equivalent situation but this has safety implications. If the ref said, okay, when you're driving in the Indy 500, you have to have your tires inflated to 65 PSI. And somebody says, I don't want my tires inflated to 65 PSI. I like driving at 60 PSI. Now, see, I know they would never make that rule because the person's going to drive on whatever tires they think is going to give them the best chance to win. I mean, it just doesn't make any sense. I literally don't think there's an equivalent in any other sport.
You know, actually, they had something like this in NASCAR where they recently kind of warned all the teams that they couldn't have a tiny pinhole in their tire. Because what would happen is if you have that pinhole in your tire, as the pressure builds up when it gets hotter, it releases some of the air and helps you drive better. So that was one of their
could they have a safety valve which allows for excess pressure to leave?
In Indy racing, they do have that.
Okay, well, there you go. All right, well, whatever. Okay, but again, that to me, that sounds safety related. I cannot imagine a case where having a ball at 11 PSI versus 13 PSI is a safety issue. Can somebody give me an example? This is not a safety issue. I just do not believe that for a second.
So now we need to start talking about homeschool curriculum.
Oh,
and I want to know what you think. No, I'm joking. It's football, Glenn.
It is football. Well, look, I'm playing hurt. I'm playing tired, and I'm playing not to lose. It's going to be the worst show ever. I mean, that's basically where we are.
Well, and that was Brian, by the way.
That was Brian. Brian Hoff. He's going to be back with us. Bonnie, you're going to be leaving us.
I am. I'm going back to being a mommy and a cook and a taxi driver.
And not a troublemaker.
And a teacher. Yeah. My troublemaking days are over for now.
Well, it does seem like Facebook is very, it's like the old town square, except for instead of there being 5 or 10 or 15 people there is 450,000 people there, and they can all say whatever they want as often as they want, however they want.
It's not face to face anymore.
Right.
It's easier to be mean behind a computer screen.
It does suck you in. Is that what you found? Is that you just, once you get into the process of having these great debates and discussions and everything, and then they can get a little rough around the edges?
Yeah, it was rough doing that. A lot of times I would get real sensitive, and it's like sometimes I can give it out, but it's hard to take it.
Mm-hmm.
So I find I'm a little too sensitive, and I don't know. I'm not enjoying it anymore.
It steals your energy.
Yes.
If that's not who you are.
Right. And it takes my mind off of my family.
Yeah. Well, and it's so important for you to have recognized that. A lot of young people by the way, your children out there, if you're listening to this program, probably don't recognize that each and every day that they're interacting with Facebook and each and every day that they're on Twitter and texting and all this other stuff, they're actually getting tired, more and more tired. They're losing a little bit of their edge because it's not healthy. It's not, I mean, it doesn't have to be healthy. It can be healthy. You know, you're talking with your grandparents, you're talking with your cousins who are in another state.
Sure.
Those kind of things are healthy. But a lot of people are going through really awful experiences where their personal life is being taken from them and their privacy is being taken from them. And sometimes their sexuality is being put on display. I mean, and awful things are said.
Yeah,
and,
boundaries are.
Yeah.
We need Facebook boundaries.
Well, it's important for parents to tune into their kids to find out how they are doing, because they may not be doing well, and they wouldn't be unlike millions of other children who are really kind of in a war zone. That Facebook can get to be somewhat of a war zone. Let me go to the phones here and talk to Doyle. Doyle, welcome to Fair Game Friday here on the Glen Biegel Show. Nice to talk to you.
Hey, Glenn. Hey, so I'm kind of bummed Bonnie's leaving. I think she should have a show, too, myself.
Well, she might end up with a show. She's a clearer-headed, conservative-thinking
Yeah.
woman.
That's very nice, Doyle. Thank you.
So here's my question. So I actually watched the news on TV because I was out of town.
Uh-huh.
And
Good
so
move or bad move? Just
bad,
right on
bad move for
bad
Doyle.
move. Do not do that at home, children. All right.
Yeah.
Got it.
Because Doyle's mouth tends to get ahead of him sometimes. And
You yell at your TV? Do you yell at your TV, Doyle?
well, no, I was sitting there with some of my relatives, and I was listening to this, basically this Muslim guy in England
Yeah.
tell that Geller lady that, yeah, someone should kill you because you drew Muhammad.
Whoa.
And so, I just turned around to who I was sitting by and I said, what she ought to do is say, you know what, I'm going to put $100,000 bounty on your head right now and see how you feel about it.
Ooh. Little tit for tat. We horrible Christians don't do that kind of thing.
Well, yeah, apparently we don't.
Well, this is the deeper question here, Doyle, is when people are so against our 10th Amendment rights, our ability to speak and believe and worship and do what we want, are they compatible with democracy? Are we de facto at war with them?
Well, I guess my question is, if it's not a U.S. citizen and it's actually a war on a U.S. citizen, which, good grief, how many times have they had warnings about people in the military, fatwas being put out on them, and where their names are published and ISIS is directly targeting them? How come we're not killing, like just saying, hey, we're going to put a bounty on these guys?
I don't know. I don't know what you do, Doyle. I mean, this is a really it seems like it's a question that we should come up with an answer for. We don't necessarily want to be at war with 1.2 billion Muslims, but I don't like the idea that they can say that somebody should die for what they have said that it has offended us. If that were the case, me being a Catholic, I would get offended all the time, and there could be lots of blood on the streets. But that doesn't happen on our side.
Yeah, well, full disclosure for me, I'm like anti-death penalty, anti-abortion, all the way down the line, So it's not like I'm a warmonger.
Right.
I was against going over there in the first place.
What is there something which guides you in your answer to this question? I mean, our military can't just say, well, we're going to go and wipe you out because you have asked to have one of our citizens wiped out. That kind of tit for tat gets you in real trouble, because then all of a sudden all the Muslims around the world say, oh, well, the United States military is now issuing fatwas. Therefore, our fatwas are actually justified, and they'd be basically right.
Well, I guess my question is, U.S. government, how come they're not saying to Saudi Arabia, to all of the countries that, we do business with over there, look, if something happens to one of our citizens, you're a Muslim country, we're shutting off trade, period.
Well,
I mean, at what point is
I don't think they're going to do that, because the powers that be are kind of in charge here, Doyle, and that would that would affect a lot of United States business people, and my guess is that they don't want to do that because they don't want to affect their the people who give them money to run for office.
And they're letting them in anyway.
Well, I know, but what I'm saying is, if they're putting a contract out on somebody,
mm-hmm.
if they're just saying, "Oh, I don't like this person,"
well, if it was their government,
whatever, I'm
though,
putting a contract on them.
Don't you think that their government tries to collect and tries to stop? Because I know that the government of Saudi Arabia always is trying to wipe out their radical forces there. Or they may be giving money, or their private citizens may be giving money to other countries. But, they're always going out and trying to round up the radical citizens in their own country. Here's the difficulty I have. A private citizen who says, I want a fatwa on this or that, versus a country who says, I agree with the fatwa on your citizen, that would be a big difference to me.
Yeah, I'm just, like I say, I just kind of feel like...
I feel a little powerless here.
Well, I feel like, where's our government in a case like that? I mean, this isn't the first time that's happened.
Sure.
And so we need to do something. And it is
I don't know that we're going to do something. I don't think our government is even defending her. It's not even protecting her. I shouldn't even have security around her.
No, because what she said they disagree with. And I have to be totally full disclosure. I think what she did was not good.
Yeah, it wasn't wise either. Hey, Doyle, I appreciate the call. Thanks so much. Glen Biegel Show, Fair Game Friday. Stay tuned. "11 minutes before the hour. Happy Friday, everyone. It is the Glen Biegel Show here on KOAN and KVNT. I'd love to talk to you. Fair Game Friday. Anything on your mind is fair game. Also, Free Flower Friday. And near the end of the show, we'll be giving away a beautiful bouquet, a $50 bouquet inside of a stainless steel travel mug, courtesy of Dot at mylordsfloral.com, 522-2535, and on the corner of 76th and the Old Seward Highway. One of the most beautiful places in the state. And that's year-round. whether you're a snowbird or not a snowbird. That is absolutely true. One of our sponsors for the program here has got something you should be interested in. If you haven't planned out your future, I assure you that your future is not going to be as bright as it should. Just a little bit of planning, a little bit of change, a little bit of investment advice, and maybe some very needed advice on what to protect. How are you going to protect your auto, your home, and your life? A+ superior rating from AM Best. Country Financial, 13 locations across the state of Alaska. You can find them online at countryfinancial.com. And, of course, their easy-to-remember phone number, 866-COUNTRY. And as Bonnie knows, country is spelled
COUNTRY.
That might be the last time you ever get to do that.
Aw.
Are you going to do that on your own? Just play it for yourself?
Well, maybe.
Okay.
We could record it.
we could record it, and we probably should record
No,
it.
well, Brian will have to start saying it.
All right. Todd, welcome to the Glen Biegel Show. Thanks for calling.
Hey, happy Friday.
Yes, indeed. I've made it this far. I mean, what could go wrong?
Lots of things.
That's exactly right. That's the positive sense that I always want to hear from you, Todd. Thank you.
Yeah. No, you really need to record Bonnie saying that, and
I agree.
yeah, but
She's going to be missed. If people are just tuning in, Bonnie is she's going to go to through a change in life here, a change in location.
Yes.
And she won't be our producer anymore. So Brian's going to come back in and be the producer of the show, and I'm sure she's going to be missed. She's going to do one more. You're going to host one more show.
I will. I'll host on the 20th before we head out of state.
All right. So that's the plan. So it's a sad day.
yeah, it is a sad day. Hey, my main purpose for the call is not the football thing, but do you dislike the rule, or do you not understand how it gives someone an advantage?
Well, I have heard lots of professional people disagree that it gives someone an advantage or not an advantage. Here's what I don't like about it. Let's just say that they're right, that it gives the quarterback an advantage to have a 2 PSI underinflated ball. Why not let the quarterbacks choose, even based on whether they're going to run or throw? Why not let the quarterbacks choose within a range, within a reasonable range, how they inflate their balls?
Well, they do have a range. So
I thought it was exactly 13 PSI. I never heard the 12 to 14.
I thought it was 12 to 14, but
I think it always starts out at 13, exactly 13. And then based on whether or not it's warm or cold and the footballs, the gas inside the footballs gets larger or smaller, then it can change, but it can't vary between 12 and 14. So that's my guess as to how they get to 14. But as far as I understand, it always starts at 13.
Well, okay. But it's like having a limit on the size of hockey goalie pads or the face of a golf club, or there has to be some standard by which everyone is measured.
There has to be a standard. I agree. All I'm saying is if Tom Brady, the greatest player in the game, likes to play with an 11 PSI football, why do we want to stop him?
Because his hands are smaller, and so it gives him an advantage.
I don't know. Actually, he has pretty big hands. There's a bunch of other quarterbacks you'd think would like this rule even more. That if they had a smaller ball, or if they had a ball that was easier to grip, I don't know. If I'm a fan, this is my take on it, Todd.
Yeah,
that game is for me. It's not for the referees to make up some crazy rule that makes my quarterback play with a ball he doesn't like. I want my quarterback playing with a ball he likes and thinks he can score with.
Right. So the main purpose of my call was cost plus budgeting is the worst form of budgeting ever invented. Cost plus budgeting. You understand, just in case people don't understand. What that means is you spend everything that you've been given in your budget, or people look at you and say, "Oh, I guess you didn't need as much as we gave you."
Mm-hmm.
And
so we're going to reduce your budget if you didn't waste all of it.
Right. And so everyone who's ever worked in government knows that at the end of the budget year, what happens is that there's this big push. Everyone starts sending out notices to everyone. Hey, what do you want?
You want to know the first administration that I know of in the history of the state of Alaska who actually stepped away from that? It's one here close to home. He's only going to be in office another 2 months.
So suggestion.
Dan Sullivan, by the way, just to answer the question. Dan Sullivan's
well,
administration had a surplus each and every year. They did not allow people to spend money that they did not absolutely need to spend, and there was no push in his administration to spend it all.
Right. So how do we do that at a state level?
Has to be based on the governor. It's totally based on the governor.
So we need a governor who will somehow establish some incentives for departments to not spend their entire budget. And if they have a reserve, there needs to be some kind of reward. There needs to be some kind of reward for any departments that have a reserve. Or
how about adoration? How about just adoration, Todd? Here's the problem. You can't. It's very difficult to make rules that reward people for doing the right thing. Doing the right thing should just be its own reward.
I understand that, but if it's not.
I know. And so I don't know. I'm interested if you come up with an idea. I've heard of people that they personally can get 10% of whatever waste, fraud, or abuse they find in the system. And that if they find $1 million of waste, fraud, and abuse, they get $100,000 check. Here you go. And as far as I understand, that can work. That can work.
That's what I'm talking about. And we need some visionaries.
I would like to go work for the government. I'm just going to put my hand up if they do implement that. I will go work for the government because I believe 40 or 50% of the government is waste, fraud, and abuse.
Yeah, I'd like to be on your team.
Yeah, I found $4 billion worth of waste, fraud, and abuse. I'll take the $400 million check. Thank you. All right, Todd, I appreciate it.
Have a good one.
Yeah, you too. Bob, I don't think we're going to get all the way through this, but I'm going to bring you on here just for a minute and then ask you to stay over if that's okay.
Sure. Yeah, it's just I'm going to miss Bonnie, but she brought up a good thing about that reminded me of the Facebook thing. I got into a little bit of a Facebook battle with Andrew Halcrow today. It started with the simple question that I posed is, how does he consider himself a Republican when
what did he say, by the way? Because I'm very interested in this answer.
Oh, it's a very long thread. It lines on quite a ways. That
can you post it on my Facebook page so that I have access to it over the break? Will. Okay, yeah. So Bob, I'm going to keep Bob on here because we have to talk about education. We cannot balance a budget or have a budget which is sustainable if we do not rationalize both the university budget and K-12 education. We just can't. Am I right on that so far, Bob?
You're absolutely right.
Yeah. Okay. We just can't do it. There's no possible way. And I have worked out. I will reveal the number. I will give you an estimate that if we're $3 billion short, how much your property taxes will increase. You who are listening to my voice, I will give you a prediction about how much your property taxes or some other kind of tax, an equivalent amount, will have to increase in order to keep this government the size that it currently is. That number coming up. More of Bob Griffin. It is Fair Game Friday and Free Flower Friday here on the Glen Biegel Show, 2 minutes before the hour. Happy Friday, everybody.
I've been looking too hard, I've been waiting too long. Sometimes I don't know what I will find. I only know it's a matter of time. Will you love someone?
Happy Friday, everybody. The Glen Biegel Show here on KOAN and KVNT. Fair Game Friday and Free Flower Friday. At the end of the hour or close to it, we'll be giving away a $50 bouquet inside of a stainless steel travel mug, courtesy of Dot at mylordsfloral.com. 522-2535 and at the corner of 76th and the Old Seward Highway. Unique floral arrangements, I say, is an understatement. Got to go in there in order to believe them. Give me a call, 569-1080, 357-5868. On the phone with me right now is Bob Griffin, and we're in the midst of, I would say it is the battle of certainly this century, Bob. I worked out the numbers, and let's just say that they were only going to increase our property taxes, right? That the state was going to implement a statewide property tax. How much do you think your property tax would have to go up percentage-wise in order to cover a $3 billion deficit?
It's a pretty huge number. I know the numbers. Actually, if we were paying for all of state government just out of wages in Alaska, that contribute about 35 or 40% of our wages just to state government to support it at the current level.
Well, here's the reality of it. They would triple our property taxes. So if you pay $5,000 now, you'd pay $15,000 in property taxes in order to cover a $3 billion deficit. If you pay $7,000, $21,000 in property taxes. If you're a business and you have to pay $15,000 or $20,000, you can start estimating the number of people you're going to have to reduce in order to cover those property taxes. That's the reality of the situation, and a lot of people aren't putting the numbers to paper yet, Bob. They still haven't gotten the message that it is us or them.
It's pretty horrific when you look at our spending, compared to what the other states spend. Even when you adjust for the high cost of living in Alaska, what we spend on state government, it's pretty obscene compared to what other states get by with. And
well, I like the statistic they used, which was Alaska spends the smallest percentage of its budget on education, to which you responded, what?
It's much more an indictment of how much we spend on everything else.
On everything else is because we spend 5 times as much on everything else, that the amount we spend on education seems a little smaller in that huge, enormous canyon.
Yeah, no, it's we've seen this 96% run up in spending on K-12 education, and we now spend per student 73% more than the national average on K-12 education. Alaska is an expensive place to live. There's no doubt about that, but it's not 73% more expensive than the rest of the United States. That, oh, by the way, gets generally better outcomes than we do for the students as well. One of the talking points that's been thrown up recently by the other side as well, we have lots of rural schools, and rural schools are really expensive. Well, we took out the Department of Education matrix and calculated the numbers. 91.2% of students in Alaska are either on the road, the Alaska Marine Highway, or live in a town that has at least 2 737s a day that visit that spot. There's less than 10% of the students are off the main transportation grid. But I'm struggling for why that's relevant. The teachers that teach in remote villages, they fly there, they stay there, they leave occasionally. The kids get up in the morning and walk to school just like neighborhood kids in Anchorage. So why that adds so much cost to K-12 education, I'm having difficulty understanding that talking point.
Well, and what they have to come up with are talking points meant to confuse the issue that we have essentially one of the most expensive education systems in the country, and it does not produce very good outcomes. And so they're just going to keep, as long as they are allowed by the news media to keep saying, we just need more. We cannot do with less. You have to give us more. I realize we have fewer students, so that would tend to result in less. But we just need more. So they just need to keep. They haven't had to come up with another talking point since we've started this debate 15 years ago.
Right. The people get up and wipe tears from their eyes and describe that our schools are underfunded. But those people that have testified, I've never seen a single one of them come up with any empirical evidence to support that claim.
Well, it makes it very difficult for conservatives, common sense independents, libertarians, establishment folks to win this argument. But we're going to have to, Bob, because we simply cannot afford. I don't know if anybody out there can afford a tripling of their property tax. They just can't.
No, and that's what's so disturbing about this conference that's coming up in Fairbanks, because we're having a discussion on additional revenues before we've even gotten close to where we need to go.
Oh, is that where the governor's going to go on this? Now, I thought he said that he was going to cut 25% from government. And that was before he got into revenues.
Right. Well, I think his number was strangely specific. It was 16% as a candidate.
Okay.
The budget that was established that came through was about an 8% reduction. A lot of it was smoke and mirrors, but they weren't real cuts.
Oh, an 8% reduction in the administrative costs, or an 8% reduction in all of government expenditures?
All the government expenditures overall, and an 8% reduction in the budget.
Well, what good will
16% was the goal, but he wants to add $100 million back
Yeah.
into something that was half of what he promised.
Bob, if we do add the $100 million back, any chance we're going to get to a sustainable budget?
Not a chance. It's going to make
Here's a deeper question. Even with these $100 million in cuts, is there a chance we're going to get to a sustainable budget? Or are the people who are screaming for more, are the bigamy crowd, the big gimme crowd, are they going to be able to take our paychecks and take our property taxes and take our income?
Well, when the numbers start coming out, I think we'll get a little bit more persuasive. Right now, I don't think anybody has the vast majority of people, your audience is certainly well educated. The vast majority of people don't have a concept.
Well, here's what I'm worried about, Bob. Here's what I'm worried about. If we don't come up and say, this is what the government looks like spending 40% less money, these are the services that we will lose. Can you live without those? I think if we have a rational discussion about that, we win. If we have the discussion we're having right now, we lose.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, that's the challenge. That's the challenge to conservatives. You've got to come up with an answer about what the state does or doesn't do with less money. Bob Griffin, I appreciate everything you do. Thanks so much.
Hey, thanks, Glenn.
AlaskaPolicyForum.org, 13 minutes after the hour. 15 minutes after the hour. Happy Friday, everybody. It is Fair Game Friday. Anything on your mind is fair game. 569-1080, 357-5868. And I would love to hear from you. Go through a few stories here at the top of the news cycle after I tell you about the hour sponsor, Dr. Dan Kiley, LakeOtisDental.com. I just went to him on Tuesday on my birthday, 562-9209, and you can smile with confidence. And that's what you get from having your teeth treat you as you want to be treated. If you think about it, if your teeth are not well cared for, they're going to be a constant source of infection. They will affect your relationships with others, and that will reflect in your health. People just don't realize that having teeth that are not well cared for do not lead to a long life, and they don't lead to a happy one either. Please give them a call, 562-9209. What you need in your life, the one thing everyone needs, a conservative dentist, Dr. Dan Kiley. By the numbers, Alaska budget debate and attempts to fix it. You know what number is not in here? The number that I just gave. And that is that if they do not fix the $3 billion budget hole, and that is the best case scenario that I've seen so far, $3 billion budget hole. $3 billion. How much will it cost you? They will triple your property taxes. However they get the money, that's what the effect will be. Whether you're a business, whether you are a private home, however they get it, income tax, property tax, sales tax, permanent fund takings, however they get it, that's how much they need. They need a tripling of your property tax. If you pay $5,000, that will go to $15,000. They might not get it all in your property taxes. I'm not saying that. But however they get it, afford to live here. Bonnie's making the decision. And by the way, people may not know this. This is going to be your last show. This is it.
This is it for producing.
For producing.
I'll sit in one more time.
So she's going to sit in on the 20th. But this is Bonnie's last day for producing the Glen Biegel Show, and it's, of course, been a great pleasure to have you on.
Well, I have enjoyed being here.
Yeah. It's a lot of
honor.
fun. Seems like, you come to work every day, and a lot of things are going on, and things that make a difference.
Yes. And I feel like I've made a difference in some things, Common Core and AMP testing that just happened. And a lot of people didn't know about all that, and, had Commissioner Hanley on, and it was a pretty good interview.
I agree.
Had some good interviews.
It did, and it did make a difference. They are having to take real close look at all of these tests and people's objections to them, and I think they are reflecting a lot more of a discomfort with the tests statewide. And what's her name? Alice? No. Who was the lady who got off the school board?
Esther Cox.
Esther Cox. So she had to withdraw her name because there was such an uproar over it.
She said she was literally drugged through the mud.
Well,
I don't know about literally,
I don't
but
think literally. I don't think that's accurate. So today is Bonnie's last day. Brian Hoff is going to be back with us, taking care of producing the show. Once again, love to hear from you. 569-1080, 357-5868. So the one number that is not in this list, and here is the list that the News Miner produces. By the numbers, Alaska budget debate and attempts to fix it. $6.9 billion. That is the projected deficit between this fiscal year and next fiscal year. That's $7 billion deficit. $94 million is the amount of money that Walker wants to add back into the budget, meaning that would go up to $7 billion from $6.9 billion, making it that much harder for us to get. Now, I'm only counting a $3 billion, not a $3.5 billion deficit. So your property taxes could quadruple if we don't get this government to be a lot smaller. Let's see, May 19th, date by which Walker must decide what to do with the partially funded budget. I'm going to explain this after I go through some of these numbers because it's pretty important for us to all be on the same page. 6, the number of budget hearings held since the special session started. 0, the number of hearings held on 2 issues the governor wanted the legislature to address that they disagree with him on. That is Medicaid funding, put more people on welfare as our state goes into massive cardiac arrest deficit. $130. Listen to this. That's what it would take right now for us to balance our budget, and more next year and more the year after. $60, the recent price range per barrel of North Slope oil. Actually, it's 50, 55. Okay, so here is the important thing about this budget. They can't actually tell whether or not they've passed a balanced budget. Why? If I freaked you out just saying that, so the legislature passes a budget, do they know whether it balances or not? No, they don't. They're only estimates for how much we're going to bring in taxes. There's only estimates for how much oil is going to be valued at. Maybe it goes up to $100 a barrel. I don't think that's possible. I don't think that's going to happen unless there's, some kind of an uprising in the Middle East, and even then it'd probably be tough. All right, so they don't actually know whether or not they've fully funded the budget, and this is the difficulty the governor has, because what he has said is they have decided that they're not going to pull money right now during the budget cycle out of our reserve funds in order to pay for the whole budget, right? All of the estimates. They're not going to cover everything. Here's what they are going to do. When we run out of money, who does the power reside with? Now, why haven't you heard this in the paper, by the way? This is such a fascinating reality. Why have you not heard the paper discuss what happens when we are unable to fund health and social services and the education and the university and the Department of Transportation and the troopers and all the other things? What happens when we can't? Because the Democrats want another $150 million at least, right? They haven't covered what the Democrats want because they're not even publishing their number. They are saying what the governor wants, but the governor's not involved in getting money out of the constitutional budget reserve, a 75% vote. Does all this make sense? So you got three different people. The one that the media is highlighting is not even in the discussion. All that Governor Walker does is put forth a proposed budget. He doesn't have a vote on it until he either signs it or vetoes it. Now, he doesn't like the budget that they've passed. He wants them to go and work with the Democrats who want to spend at least $150 million, and I've heard upwards of $250 million more money. That's more money you're going to have to pay in taxes to fund this bloated state. And I don't know if you want to do that. Maybe you do. Maybe you just say, you know what? Whatever the Democrats want to do, that's perfect. So the governor's not even involved in it. Why are they printing a $94 million number? Who cares? What did the Democrats want? How much is it going to cost to buy their votes? Why don't they put them on the hot seat? Because who's writing this? Associated Press. This is written by the Associated Press, by the way, and put in Newsminder. Because they don't want to. Because it's a political suicide for them to print how much more money the Democrats want to spend. They don't want to print that. They want this to make it seem like it's the Republicans' problem. It's not the Republicans' problem. They have a perfect plan. They are brilliant. They're doing it just like they should. What is their plan? Here's their plan. We've passed a budget. If you don't like it, fine. We're not going to pass any more money. We are standing firm on this budget. You can keep calling us back into session, and the Democrats, by the way, we're just going to gavel out after this. After this time, they'll gavel in, they'll gavel out. And who will get blamed for? The governor will. Wasting another $1 million, wasting another $1 million, wasting another $1 million. So they're going to gavel in and gavel out after this. This is the last time they're going to put themselves in this position. What is their plan? And it's a brilliant plan. I love this plan. Their plan is, let us run out of money. Then all education will shut down. If you don't sign on to our budget, and you are going to have to sign on to get money out of the Constitutional Budget Reserve, Democrats, we're not giving you another doggone dime. Not one thin dime. This is the budget that we're on. This is the path to sustainability. We're not going to increase spending by $150 or $250 million like you want. So they are going to force the Democrats, because the whole government will shut down if the Democrats keep pushing. That's their plan. And I think it's great. I think it's a good plan, because the Democrats will have to sign on to this budget because at least it continues to fund their special interest groups. Now, here's the reality of the situation, though. This budget, and even if they go through another miraculous budget, this was a hard budget. Next year's budget will be a total miracle. Think about it. They just cut, I think they cut something like $350 million out of the operating budget, something like that. Next year, they want to cut $500 million out of the operating budget, more money than they cut out of the operating budget this year. How can they possibly do that? I'm asking, how can they possibly do that if they have so much pushback this year and then they want to cut more next year? Think how much vitriol will come up. Here's the reality of the situation. The legislature needs us. Conservatives, common sense independents, libertarians, establishment folks who don't love government. We don't even like government. We want government to do a few things, and we like it for that, but it's better do them pretty well. So here's what they need. They actually need for the government to get about 40% smaller. That means 40% fewer people on welfare. Yeah, you heard that number right. 40% fewer people on welfare. That's what has to happen. That is the only path forward. Education will have to be cut by 40%. I don't think we can cut the troopers, by the way. So that's a fairly small budget. University system, 40% smaller. Yet you're hearing me say the words. If not, we will not be able to live here. Do you love government? Do you love Alaska? You got to weigh those two things. Gosh, it's going to be hard. This is going to be the most difficult thing because our system is not designed to roll back all the increases that they've poured into the state. I think what we have to do is we have to go back to like a 2005 or a 2006 budget. What? We can't do that. That's like 8 years ago. It's like 8 years ago. We can't go back to an 8-year-old budget. Oh, my goodness. We're going to have to. And it's going to take conservatives and common sense independents and libertarians working together and establishment folks to make it happen. Let me go to Chris. Chris, welcome to the Glen Biegel Show. We only have like 30 seconds, so we might have to hold you over.
Oh, that's right. I just wanted to say that the state budget is baked into the cake. That there's lots of places that just are not economically sustainable.
Yeah.
And in order for those businesses to exist, whether that's in the bush or Fairbanks or anywhere, we have to make those sustainable. And
yeah, it's up to the government to keep these businesses afloat. Otherwise, they just don't exist.
Well,
hey, Chris, you got to hold on. We're going to run out of time here. I want to get your thoughts on this. I'd like to get your thoughts out there, too. It's Fair Game Friday and Free Flower Friday here on the Glen Biegel Show. KOAN 569-1080, 357-5868. Stay tuned. It's hard to do a talk show host while you're dancing. That's just very difficult. And it's hard to keep your lunch down while I'm dancing. So that's probably equally true. 25 minutes before the hour, it's Friday. We made it. And in 10 minutes, we're going to be giving away a beautiful $50 bouquet of flowers inside of a stainless steel travel mug, courtesy of Dot at mylordsfloral.com. Free Flower Friday. Yes, it is true. It's also Fair Game Friday. Anything on your mind is fair game, and I would love to hear from you. Let me go back to the phones here. We're talking with Chris. Chris, sorry about that. We just lost track of time.
That's all right, Glenn. Ultimately, it comes down to this: that in order for a community to sustain itself over the long term, it needs to generate more economic surplus than it consumes. And most of Alaska does not do that. In fact, I would say all of Alaska does not do that except the oil producing, except like Dead Horse. And so,
what does Alaska do about that? We have $50 billion in the bank, by the way, and actually over the last two years, I think, our earnings made a whole lot more than all of our other state tax income put together by far.
Well, that's nice, but that's ultimately, not really.
Here's the difficulty for the mention that I gave that, by the way, Chris. It's still not enough unless we cut. The earnings from the permanent fund are not going to be able to close this $3.5 billion gap. There is no way that we survive if we don't reduce government or ship people who like having a job and like having a house out.
Well, that's the ultimate decision we have to make, and we need to understand, and this is pretty distressing with both.
That's right. That's the decision we've got to make. Oh, you're worried about Berkowitz coming in here.
Well, and not just Berkowitz, but
Walker.
Both Berkowitz and Walker need to understand that that's not a decision that can be, or that reality isn't affected by votes.
Mm.
And that's ultimately the problem, is that Bill Walker thinks that he can count enough noses and enough people can agree with him that will affect the fundamental reality.
Here's the difficulty I have is that
Bush Alaska economically sustainable, and it won't.
Yeah, the problem is that they've been getting government subsidy for so long. I think they think it's normal, and I'm hoping that the next couple of years where the money gets a little more scarce sort of convinces them, I really need to move to the road system, or I need to figure out how to get jobs out here, maybe mining jobs or maybe tourism jobs or something like that in order to sustain myself.
Well, and Anchorage and Fairbanks need to understand that too. I mean, they're both massively supported by the federal and state government.
Yeah, but that's probably not going to change. Even Fairbanks, I think, has dodged a bullet. They're going to get the F-35s there. The F-16 squadron's going to stay there. I think they may actually end up increasing the Air Force base, even though Fort Wainwright's probably going to be downsized. But they'll probably make out okay in the end. But you're right. I don't think it's going to change, though. I guess that's my point.
Well, whether it changes or not, reality is still not up for a vote, and that's what people need to understand. And
you're the hard voice of reality here for people. The fiscal reality of our situation. It's very tenuous. That's what I get out of your call, Chris, and that people had better start waking up to, if things don't fall our way in every way, this is going to be a difficult place, if not an impossible place to live, because we have got a government which we cannot afford and we don't need, frankly.
Well, the historical example is that for most of Alaska's history, the only place that had any significant population was Southeast Alaska. Everywhere else was very, very sparse on the ground.
Mm-hmm.
That's the nature of the beast.
That's the historical situation, but boy, when they killed off timber, that sure changed fast.
Well, I'm talking even before contact with the Russians. Like if you don't have some sort of economic surplus.
Mm-hmm. Well, people back then, by the way, used to live off the land. They knew how to live in here in the state of Alaska. Hey, a lot of great points, Chris. I really appreciate the call. Hope you call again.
Talk to you later.
Thanks so much. 569-1080, 357-5868. Murkowski has got a whole slew of bills. So she's the head, Lisa Murkowski, she's the head of the Energy Resources Committee for the Senate. Let me ask you a question. Hey, Bunny, if somebody hadn't passed a bill, a major bill, in the last, I don't know, 8 years, and they were the federal government, do you think that you would take them seriously? Like, gee, I wonder whether or not the Energy Committee really wants to create more United States energy. Now, we've done so against their best efforts. The entire time the Democrats have held control over the Energy Committee, they never passed a major energy bill. So Lisa Murkowski is now head of the Energy Committee, and there's a piece in Alaska Dispatch News by Erica Martinson, which covers all of the different things that she wants to do. They kind of seem to me to be working around the edges. Hopefully there's a couple of good things in there. Now, this is what I thought was interesting, the comments on this piece. And so I might direct your thoughts, your views to them. Here's the first one. If any of Senator Murkowski's energy legislation is a threat to environmental protection. Now, what in the world does that mean? I know what it means, by the way. I'll tell you what it means in this crazy person's mind. She thinks she lives in a lab. She thinks when she throws out her trash, it gets deleted, not gets put in a landfill. She thinks when she drives her car that it produces zero pollution. She thinks that her kids don't create pollution. She thinks that when she goes out and earns a living, that her business doesn't have anything to do with the environment. She is crazy. And that's the reality. I'm going to read it to you again. If any of Senator Murkowski's energy legislation is a threat to environmental protection, it doesn't even have to affect environment, not even the environment. She's 3 steps away from the environment here. Not does damage the environment, but is a threat to the environment. Note to you, whoever you are, Kate. Everything could be considered a threat to the environment, including you and your dog and you mowing your lawn and going to work and having children. Everything's a threat to the environment. Am I wrong? I'm not wrong. Okay, and then she says a threat to environmental protection, not to actually a damage to the environment, which we could all understand, because if you damage the environment, you know what's going to happen? You're going to get fined, then you're going to get shut down. No, we're talking about a threat to environmental protection. What does that mean? It means whatever the environmentalists want it to mean. It means nothing. It means fear. It means stop. It means no. It means I don't care about your job. I don't care about anything. So here, Lisa Murkowski says, I've got a whole bunch of legislation, and the immediate response from the left-wing fanatics who are coming out in droves from our education establishments is if you threaten environmental protection, well, the president already established that Keystone Pipeline, which provided tens of thousands of jobs for the United States, was a better way to deliver oil to the refineries of the United States and would have allowed us to become energy independent, thereby making it less likely for Russia to have to produce oil, thereby protecting the environment. He's already made the case that I don't like it. I don't like a pipeline. I don't want a pipeline. And he made that based on this very supposition, a threat to environmental protection. What does it mean? It means that we can't have any energy production. And it means that you've got a choice to make. And this is the hard thing for Kate, a top commenter, and the first one on my list. I don't know whether or not other people have gotten in front of her. She got 7 likes for this, by the way. It means that if Kate runs things, Kate won't care about herself or her kids or her mowing her own lawn or going to her own work or driving her own car, but she will care about shutting down anybody else from having their kids or having their lawn or having their job or having their car. And that's Kate's problem. And that's our problem. So we've got a decision to make about whether or not we're going to let Kate run things. I would suggest, by the way, that you don't. I hope that we don't. I don't know. I don't know whether we'll be able to stop Kate from running things and we can live in an understanding that I think our businesses have really got a good message. Now, how about this guy? Anchorage man gets 2.5 years for faking injuries and collecting disabilities. Now, half of this is totally disgusting. And the other half of this is an amazing story about a person who is one of the most effective and efficient workers I think I've ever witnessed. So listen to this guy. He is on disability for 5 years. He gets $365,831 in disability payments. Question. This just came to mind. I mean, maybe I'm just a little off base here, but who in the heck can possibly give him $75,000 a year in cash payments for disability? What are we doing? Have we lost our minds? We're going to give people 75 grand a year if you claim disability, and you're faking it, of course. So he gets disability for 5 years. So he has to pay that back. That's how much they gave him. And $14,141 in cash that he actually had at his house. Now, what has he been doing the last 5 years? He claimed that he had this horrible back problem. And this was a postal worker, by the way. He claimed he had this unbearable and constant lower back pain. What has he been doing? In addition to maintaining that he was disabled, he also broke the law because he was making other income. He claimed he was not working when he actually was getting money, collecting income by preparing immigration, paperwork, and tax returns for hundreds of people out of an office behind his house. This is a very industrious man. I mean, if he wasn't such a criminal at heart, we probably ought to hire him to do something. Wow. And hundreds of people, immigration paperwork. You're listening to the Glen Biegel Show. 13 minutes before the hour. Happy Friday, everybody. You want to give away the flowers right now? No. Okay. When we come back, stay tuned. Eleven minutes before the hour. Oh, Andrew gives me a big, mean, nasty response. So Bob Griffin asks him a question, says he's a big government Republican, which, I mean, we have years of experience that he is, proposed every tax under the sun. And was arguing for more money for the education establishment, that he actually got their endorsement. I don't think that anybody could argue that he's a small government person. I don't see how you could do that. So I asked whether Bob Griffin said, I'm confused. What relevance does the amount of money that his family business pays in taxes have to do with his take on big government? And then I asked, did Andrew Halker reply to this? I'm not sure the relationship either. And then Andrew says, your last comments highlight your extreme ignorance.
I love that name calling.
Yeah. I'm still not sure, though, how
is
much his family taxes, because he operates a car rental place. And, of course, those are all people from out of town. So who do you tax first? People who come to your town from somewhere else. And that's the same thing they do with hotel taxes and bed taxes. And, there are a lot of places that pay.
We're going to punish you for coming to our city.
Very high. Well, we're just like everybody else. So, I mean, in relationship to, a place like California where I just was. So anyway, and then he comes up with another thing, which doesn't have anything to do with your proxy in the election was beaten by 20 points. It's over. Walk away. I guess I'm just still not sure. It doesn't sound like he's answering any of the questions.
No, that's what I received from him too, by the way.
Yeah.
It was a lot of you crazy Christian right-wing nuts.
Okay.
Those kinds of lovely words.
I guess. Well, look, dealing with arguments is very difficult. And a lot of times you get into discussions with people who you just don't like, and you don't want to listen to what they have to say, which is kind of what I took from this. He still hasn't answered the question. And my guess is he doesn't have an answer to the question. What he probably wants to say is, I was head of the Chamber of Commerce for Alaska. By definition, that means I'm a Republican.
I mean, I guess.
No.
Well,
and it doesn't, first of all, it doesn't mean you're a Republican. Secondly, even if you are a Republican, it doesn't mean you're for small government, because that was our experience with them. So
all it makes me do now is be strangely suspicious of the Chamber of Commerce.
Well, the difficulty for the Chamber of Commerce, like they voted to increase Medicaid spending, right? They wanted more people on welfare. That is not a traditional business position. They don't want people on welfare. They want people to work and have a business that provides benefits to them.
And the diversity issue.
They're moving away. Well, I think the diversity issue largely is because the schools are kind of changing the rules on everything. That's largely over. I don't, Berkowitz is a left winger. He got elected by 20 points. The diversity issue was out there. That's it. It's over.
Well, they want to force their diverseness. What would it be called?
Diversity.
They want to force it on the small businesses and the churches, and now we can't have our thoughts and our opinions.
Well, that's right. And there's only one little sliver, by the way, that I think is defensible in all of this, and that is that you can have a reasonable objection to someone else wanting for you to participate. And it's easy to see that if a satanic worshiper wanted you to come up and design the dresses for their satanic ritual, they say, well, I don't want to design the dresses for your satanic ritual. I'm not interested in doing that. Now, immediately everybody would say, well, obviously they shouldn't be able to force the Christian to be able to do that. Okay, I just want you to think about what I just said. I'm not even going to go any further. I just want you to think about what I just said. Because I think you'll get, at least you'll understand that there is something left to lose. Let me tell you about somebody who can do great work with your roof. You think you have nothing left to lose with your roof? We just had rain, I think, for the first time in a couple of months or something. It hasn't rained a whole lot, but it will rain probably this summer. If your roof is leaking, and a friend of mine, his roof is leaking, he's saving up, he's getting ready to redo his roof. I'm sure he's going to ask Earhart Roofing for a re-roofing estimate. 345-5555. That gets you to the best in the business. Licensed, bonded, and insured. Better Business Bureau Business of the Year for 2010. An amazing group of people. 25 trucks. And they just told me they updated my number, 65 employees at Earhart Roofing. And there's a whole bunch of projects they're involved with right now. But they have some suggestions for who, if they cannot come and take care of your roofing issues, they will give you to some other people who can. But always a good place to get suggestions from, to call and ask questions of. 345-5555 Earhart Roofing, and a sponsor of the program. So, Bonnie, what is your plan? What are you looking forward to do? This is your last few minutes of the show.
Aww.
The last time you're going to be here as producer. You'll be hosting again in a couple of weeks.
I will. So everybody needs to call in on the 20th and chat with me and just visit like we're old friends, like we always do. And I don't know, I've really loved this. It's wonderful to have a voice, and I'm going to really miss that. I told you that I feel sometimes like standing up in church and just talking because
the problem with having a voice is it is costly.
It is.
Right.
It
is. Because it puts you out in the public, and when you're out in the public, you're going to be attacked, and your family becomes fair game, and everything about you becomes fair game. You almost wonder whether or not that if they got vicious enough, they'd go after your employment and all kinds of things. And I hope that the left never gets to that point, as they did with Amy Signs and things like that. But I do worry about that.
Right. Yeah, it's really a shame. It kind of did bring me down a bit. I mean, we had already been thinking about leaving, so it's not like they've beat me. And
there were some other things which we talked about having to do with one person in the family and another person in the family.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we've lived with
and
my
some
parents.
Cleaning advice.
Yes, we've lived with my parents for a couple years now, and so it's
probably time.
I think it's time for them to have their house back.
Yeah. Well, very good. Bonnie is going to be turning over the secondary mic here on the other side of the glass to Brian Hoff. I'm really looking forward. One of my favorite people. I try not to embarrass him, but he actually is going to be the MC at my daughter's wedding, at her reception, and that is going to be just an enormous amount of fun. A huge weight off my shoulders and a huge weight on your shoulders. But he's done it like dozens of times.
He's a pro.
People tell me all the time, how much he's really done for their wedding. So we'll be talking about that, I'm sure, as we get closer to the big day, the 20th. The first of my children kicked out of the house. Histoire, goodbye, bon voyage.
See, I thought it was going to be really difficult for you, but you seem happy.
No, well, here's why I'm happy, because I honestly don't think that people are fulfilled until they're married. Or I guess if you're going to be a priest or a nun, I mean,
right.
I'm still okay with that. But really, it's the fulfillment of and the beginning of a full life. So I'm not. It doesn't sadden me at all. To me, it makes perfect sense. It's how we were made, and kind of what most of us are destined for. Well, folks, are we going to give away flowers? Okay.
Yeah.
It is Free Flower Friday. Give us
flowers.
a call right now. Caller number. We're going to just do this quick, so you got to get on the phones right now. Get your fingers dialing. I'm going to announce it. It is caller number 2-569-1080, 357-5868. The beautiful $50 bouquet inside of a stainless steel travel mug, courtesy of Dot and MyLordsFloral.com. Give us a call right now, 569-1080, 357-5868. Have a great weekend, and see you. I'm sure I'll see you later sometime, Bonnie. Take care, folks.